This is Julianne of Leafling Learns, and this past weekend was Minimmersion weekend. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, every 2 months I run an event called Minimmersion weekend. It's all about taking the weekend to create a fun language learning retreat for yourself that's focused on immersion learning techniques. It's not high stakes. There's no failing the challenge. It's not a challenge. All it's about is exploring native media in your target language, finding some new stuff, going back to old favorites, and just making a weekend event of it. It can be hard to balance language learning with all of your other real-life duties and interests. So this is just kind of a celebration of engaging in native media in our target languages and just kind of making like a little at-home holiday of it. And there's a social aspect online. There's stuff you can watch with us. It was a really good time this weekend. It's really hard for me to keep track, but there were somewhere around or above 120 participants this time. There was a lot of activity online. It was really cool to see what everybody was up to. There were way more different languages than ever represented. As expected, I spent my weekend on Japanese. So I just wanted to do a little reflection of what my Minimmersion weekend was like. I've vlogged in the past, but I kind of realized that if I spent the time vlogging this time with the amount of events that we had in the schedule, my priorities would have been running the event, then vlogging, then spending time with Japanese. And I did not really want immersing in my target language to be my third priority during Minimmersion weekend, so I wasn't going to vlog this time. I feel like I was able to get a very good mix of activities this weekend. Right before this weekend, actually, I was suffering from a migraine for a number of days, so I was very conscious of screen time already. And the day before Minimmersion, I was already kind of starting to feel my migraine coming back a little bit, so I had to be very, very, very conscious of making sure that I was doing activities that were not just screen-based. So that really exacerbates my headaches. So it was a good mixture of screen, non-screen, and then not just consuming media, but engaging in activities type of immersion. I think I'll just kind of go chronologically through what I was up to personally. So we started off watching Howl's Moving Castle. That was a good time. I'd not seen it in a very long time. It's not one of my favorite Miyazaki movies. I much prefer Princess Mononoke or Nausicaa for sure. Probably just because they're more environmental. But I had forgotten how anti-war this film was, so it was a nice surprise, and it was nice to see how much I could understand of it. I'm pretty sure after that I checked in on Bokujo Monogatari on my Switch. That is my Story of Seasons game. I don't do Pioneers of Olive Town. I don't know what the Japanese title is for that one, but I play Saikai no Mineraru Town. It's not the most recent game, but it's a remake of a Game Boy Advance game that I love dearly. So that's always really fun. I find the dialogue compelling and funny, and it's just repetitious enough to be helpful, but not bothersome or boring. I didn't play a whole lot of that this weekend. I didn't play very many games this weekend, actually. I did do yoga in Japanese. That was one of the things that I did. Each of the days, that's kind of an example of a more engaging way to spend time with your target language, not just consuming media, but having to follow instructions in Japanese. So alongside some of our server members, I was doing her YouTube channel name is really long. Wellness to Go by Arisa. She has a 30-day yoga challenge, and we've been doing that. We started it then, and we've still been doing it now. They're really nice. They're only 8 to 15 minutes long. I love a low commitment activity. I've attempted doing yoga in the past in Japanese, like many, many, many months ago, and I more or less was just along for the ride back then, but this time I'm actually understanding what the instructions are, like, and not having to think about it very hard. So that's been a fun surprise to kind of see that I must have made progress somewhere along the way, because it's just like far easier, and I'm not getting everything, of course, but I don't have to be watching the screen the whole time to follow the directions, so that's fun. Then I think this was one of my favorite activities was watching the live action movie Swingu Garuzu, or Swing Girls. I was nervous initially because, typical to live action things a lot of the time is, not all live action, hashtag not all live action, but there's a lot of word slurring, there's a lot of fast talking. I was very nervous that I was just not going to understand anything, especially because there was also a dialect on top of that. I didn't know if it was going to be exactly my sense of humor, right, going into it. I probably have a very specific sense of humor, but as I got into it, it was just incredible. In addition to being genuinely funny, it is very wholesome. It is a heartwarming movie. By the end of it, I was like cheering everybody on. I just loved it. I loved it. Highly recommend it if you can get your hands on it. We watched it with subtitles, which was very helpful. Definitely the unexpected treasure of Minimmersion this weekend was Swing Girls. And I think comedy is great for immersion anyway, because it's like there are so many visual anchors in comedy as well, right? There's visual comedy going on at the same time, similar to how anime has a lot of obviously like flashy visuals going along with the story. Comedy isn't always just in what's being said. I think that's where extra layers are, but comedy can be similarly dramatic in its presentation. So I think it's a great way to get some live action listening practice in. Also a great movie if you like music. It's about some delinquent schoolgirls in summer school, and they accidentally give the whole marching band, or the brass band or whatever, food poisoning. Oops. And then they fill in for the brass band, and they're very bad initially, they're very bad at this, but they've got heart, okay? They really want it, and it's taken away from them, and so they have to kind of go their own way to chase their big band dreams, and it's just superb. So, on a completely different note, back to the horrors of war. Before bed, I read a graded reader story. I was reading from this graded reader, pretty old. I read this story called Chi-chan no Kage Okuri. It's this one, very sad, very grim, about the horrors of war. And of course, from the eyes of a child. So, brutal. Not sure why I read that before bed, but I read it and it was good. The next day I did my yoga. I woke up immediately to watch Shirokuma Cafe, which is just superb as always. Anybody who hates Shirokuma Cafe, or anybody who thinks Shirokuma Cafe is boring, is dead inside. It's very funny. It's funny for anybody, okay? If you don't think it's funny, then you're not funny. I'm not trying to attack everybody, but I have strong feelings. Fun fact, if you didn't know, the penguin is played by the voice actor who does Levi Ackerman in Attack on Titan. Okay, so did that for a couple hours. Amazing as always. And then, on the topic of Levi Ackerman, a mini-immersion miracle took place. I got 5 volumes of Attack on Titan in Japanese, delivered to me on Saturday. I started reading on Sunday. Maybe I read on Saturday. Time is not linear. We do not have evidence that it is. I thought this was going to arrive on Monday, but it arrived on Saturday, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was very excited. Got through like a chapter or two. Put a pin in that. We'll return to it later. So, more Grizzly War stuff. And I listened to some of the real Japanese podcast while I was cooking. That was great, and I kind of would replay an episode a few times to try to pick up different things as I was listening, then I would move on to a new one. And then the other main activity that I did was play, oh god, what is it called? Totoko Hamutaro San? Maybe? In English it's called Hamtaro Ham Ham Heartbreak. I don't think it's called that in Japanese, but it is a Game Boy Advance game that is in all kana, and I don't want to say it's the greatest game of its time. I won't say that because it goes without saying. It's genuinely very good, and the thing about it is that even though it's all kana, which can be kind of a pain, the dialogue is really fun. It's a game where you're mostly involved in hamster relations, and you are trying to help out relationships between hamsters who are fighting. So there's just like a lot of really useful dialogue. Apart from the hamugo, they teach you a hamster dialect. There's like different words for it. It doesn't matter. Maybe not a game for everyone, but I think it's wonderful. And it's fun to play while having other people watch you and help you out with things that you can't understand. Like there was one word that I ran into, meruhem, which was in katakana. Meruhen kappu. It was being used for a teacup ride at an amusement park, and I was so baffled by this word, but it was actually a katakana word based on a German word. It means fairy tale. So I always love those moments where it's not my fault for being stupid, it's my fault for not speaking every language. So it was a relief. Anyway, that's more or less all that I did. I had some movies that I thought I was going to watch that I definitely did not watch because I just kind of needed to keep my head away from screens. Oh, I read some of Ai no Hidarigawa, which I've just been kind of slowly going through for quite a while. It's a YA novel, I guess, technically. It's kind of odd. It's based in, like, near future Japan where, like, crime is up. And this girl, her mother dies, she's looking for her dad, and she can also talk to dogs. So she's on a journey. It sounds very strange when I talk about it, but I don't know, all the reviews I found of it really like it, and it's written very clearly, very, very clearly, so I really like that about it. I did try to start Ano Koro by, oh my god, what is her name? I'll put it on the screen, I don't remember who wrote it. I tried to start that on like Sunday night, okay, and I was already very mini-immersioned out by Sunday night. It was not the time for me to be like introducing myself to a new writing style and a new book. So luckily I have gotten to a point with these mini immersion weekends where I'm kind of quick to notice my energy levels and how I'm feeling in that regard, and I'm quicker to make adjustments as needed. So I was able to close that up, put it away, and I think I switched back to Ai no Hidarigawa because I am familiar with how that one's written. It's way more comfortable. I just didn't have the brain energy to exert by the end of the weekend. I learn again and again that I'm not going to have time to get to everything on my list of activities, and that's fine. In addition to that, I have every time noticed progress, not just in my Japanese level or my comfortability immersing. I mean, the immersing part isn't something that I'm not doing the rest of the time, right? I'm just not doing it for full days or anything. But noticing progress in, like, my ability to check my energy levels, my ability to make sure to be flexible with my expectations and with my activities. And obviously I think having a migraine the week before does put things into perspective, where it's like you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You have no choice but to take care of yourself. So it's important even when you're immersing in a language, I think, to make sure that you're checking in on yourself and taking care of yourself, because it's not worth learning a language at any cost, right? If you're not happy and healthy enough to be enjoying the language learning, then what are you doing it for, right? So let's take care of ourselves. That's something that I have learned and gotten better at. To get back to the Attack on Titan pin, here it is. In my post-Minimmersion afterglow, I definitely had my motivation boosted, and I completed my first ever volume of manga. I did it. If you know me, you know that I'm very terrified of manga irrationally. I'm also bad at completing things. I'll start something and read like 2 chapters and then put it down, even if I love it. So finishing Attack on Titan is something that I'm very excited about. I'm very pleased. I'm very excited to keep moving. When I started reading this, I started reading it digitally maybe like a month ago, and maybe did like 1 or 2 chapters. I was initially watching this show. I've watched it before. I love it. But rewatching the show with just Japanese subtitles and doing some sentence mining, and then after finishing an episode, I would read a chapter to kind of help myself out, give myself some like prior exposure to the words that would be in the manga. The only thing with that plan is that like by episode 2 or 3, it was already kind of diverging on what was taking place chronologically and opting to do like flashbacks, yada yada yada, so I had to scrap that plan. I mean, I do intend to keep rewatching it over time. I'd love to rewatch it before the new season comes out, because it's the only anime that I care about, but I ended up just reading Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I think I read chapter 2 twice. I think I realized as I was halfway through chapter 2 that I had read it like a month ago, but that's fine. And this is a book that I thought was going to be way too hard for me. I thought this was a one-day book. You know, I thought this was a, like, talk to me in a year and I'll read it then kind of book. But it's a now book. This is a now book, which is crazy to me. I will say there's definitely a lot of very specific vocabulary that I did not have. Lots of word lookups, a lot of military stuff, war fighting stuff. What are some of the words I've learned? Like hinanmin, refugee, kuchiku, exterminate. It sounds so cute. Kuchiku shite yaru. That's what Aaron says. Something like that. It's definitely a lot of very specific vocabulary, and that kind of slows me down. But at the same time, through the context and also through knowing the meanings of the kanji already, I'm able to pretty much guess what the words mean ahead of time, which is good. So sometimes, you know, if I'm not in the mood to look up exactly what a word means, I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to be like, I think that's this faction of the military or whatever, and move on. And there's like a couple pages I skipped. Like, yeah, there's like a page just talking about like how the equipment works. I don't care, okay? I'm not watching Attack on Titan because I care about the equipment, okay? I skipped it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm sure one day I'll go back and read that page and be so grateful I did. I'm counting that as a Minimmersion win because it is a product of doing this weekend. It was just so much fun. Everyone was amazing this weekend. If you participated, you should be so proud of yourself for taking some time to yourself and taking some time to just spend in your target language. If you've never immersed before and you jumped in and tried some stuff out, that's amazing. If you already immerse all the time, you still took time just to give to yourself, just to create a little special weekend of it, right? Because, you know, I think it's important to create celebrations within our lives, within the mundanity or whatever, the repetition, making that which is repetitious feel a little more special. If you participated, I hope that it gave you a little boost. I hope you found some cool new things that you can immerse in the future. The next mini immersion weekend is going to be in November. The dates are not set yet, and it is going to be our 1-year anniversary of mini immersion. That's so crazy. The first one that we ever did was in November, and it's November again. How did we get here? So, we'll try to come up with something to make it a little bit special. Would love to have you there if you're available. I'll be sure to actually share the dates on YouTube this time because it's a bigger deal. But if you want more like real-time updates, follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm posting all the time. I write little mini essays pretty much with every single photo that I post, just kind of reflecting on not just what I'm doing in Japanese, but kind of stuff I'm thinking about in terms of the language learning process and self-compassion, yada, yada, yada. I will be posting more videos very soon about that kind of thing, because I realize I talk about self-compassionate language learning pretty explicitly on Instagram, but I only kind of peripherally touch on it in my videos. I was waiting on, I don't know if you noticed, I have a microphone on right now. I was waiting on that because it's been too noisy upstairs due to people moving in for me to film just on my camera, so I had to get a microphone. Hopefully it sounds good. Anyway, that's it. That was my mini immersion experience. Nothing too crazy, but definitely some wins for me in there. Hope to see you at the next mini immersion, and I will see you around. If you liked this video, you'll probably like my other videos on mini immersion itself. I have a video about how to create your own language learning immersion retreat at home, some tips on how to stay sane during that, and I have a vlog of one of my mini immersion experiences.